I'm back. Am I happy Lowry resigned? I've been gone so long, we haven't talked about it. And what does this mean for the Jazz chances to tank like everyone wants to? All of that and all of your questions coming up on today's edition of Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, key numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. I've even just switched the microphone to the correct microphone. You thought I was going to screw that up for the whole show. I screwed up. It's so funny. I've been out for a little while. Oh, wait, let me get back to focus. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. Here's what's coming up on the show. It is an Ask LOJ edition. That means you submitted the questions. We'll start back to Lowry re-signing and whether I'm pleased about that. What does it mean for the Jazz run for Cooper Flagg with the current roster? What are the max wins? Now that Lowry has his contract and costs and timeline, what does this mean for Keontae Walker and those contracts upcoming? Colin Sexton's role. John Collins, what if he starts this year? Should we riot, he says. That's the question. Opening lineups, 20 games in, what's our feeling? All sorts of other big league questions coming up for you on today's edition. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz and Jazz NBA insider. Thanks so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps, as well as on YouTube. Thank you to all the everydayers that are out there making this part of their day. Thanks to Leaf Tulane. I went to Maui for 2 weeks, and then I just had a podcast convention, and I am back. I'm going to go see my daughter play some golf, so I'll float in and out a little bit, but we're generally back. Try to get as much done as we can. So let's get right to the show. I will say it was pretty funny. I screwed up everything this morning. I started the show without a new graphics package. I didn't know what my reads were. I wasn't going to be able to tell you that today's show is brought to you in part by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket for YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. That's a pretty good deal. So it's kind of been a mess. All right, let's get right to it, though. I'm excited to be back. Am I pleased that the Jazz re-signed Lowry? I really am. I understood all the trade talk, but when we did the research right before I left and we did the history of tanking show, which I'll link to right at the end of this episode, what was really clear, and I don't know that we can do this, if you really tank and are a bottom 5 team, and you really tank, you got to really be a bottom 5 team for like 3 years. We haven't done that yet. Then you can't do it when the cupboard's bare. When the cupboard gets completely bare, it was clear from our research, there's few and far between. Oklahoma City with Harden, Durant, Westbrook made the finals, but there aren't a lot with the cupboard fully bare that are able to make the strides and get to where they want to. It was also clear that, frankly, tanking for 3 years gets you to the playoffs. Like, you go tank for 3 full years, bottom 5, 3 full years, you'll actually pretty much often make the playoffs. Now, whether you go any further than just a round or two was wildly up for debate. It was an interesting show. So I thought it was really important to re-sign Lowry. 1, he's great. 2, I don't believe in letting the cupboard get totally bare. 3, for Keontae and Cody and Isaiah and Bryce and Taylor to develop, you've got to have somebody on the floor that can hold their own. When we had Keontae on the floor as our best player, when he's about 150th best player in the NBA at the time, maybe, I don't know where, I just made that up, but it was too much. And we've got to find out what Keontae has. And we've got to find out what Bryce Sensabaugh has and what Taylor Hendricks have and what Isaiah Collier and Cody Williams might be. And Walker Kessler, for that matter. And to do that, you need some semblance of order. That's where Lowry's valuable. John Collins is valuable. Jordan Clarkson's valuable. Let them just play.
I think it's unlikely that any of those guys is going to be a number one superstar option. Like if I put the ceiling on top of Keontae, would probably be at best, I'd have to look, but a top 50 player in the NBA. Like, do I think he's ever Donovan, who's a top 20 player in the NBA? I doubt it. Maybe. We'll see. Hope so. Do I think any of our guys ever become better than a top? Maybe I should have said top 30 for ceiling. We're talking ceiling, right? Like it really clicks in. I don't know if I think any of these guys are that. And so if they're not that in their ceiling, they're certainly not that in their development. And if their development, they need to have somebody around that can relieve some of that burden. I've said this before. I wish if I had a hard drive and I could erase files, I wish I could erase the last kind of 20 games I watched of Keontae George having to play without Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. Ben Anderson has done a nice job of kind of what it was without Jordan. I looked at it as though it was without Lowry. So it's the combination of the two. So am I happy the Jazz re-signed Lauri Markkanen? You bet. 1, he's great. 2, he's a super dude. 3, it gives you some semblance of some foundation. 4, it allows the young guys to have something to build off to play with. And 5, I just don't think you can let the cupboard go bare. Second question, can the Jazz still be in the running for Cooper Flagg with Lowry and Colin Sexton playing? In other words, how badly can we still tank? So it's a legitimate question. It did feel as though we probably need to try to get out from being the 9th pick of the draft. We either need to get to being the 3rd pick of the draft or make a playoff run and stop being the 9th pick of the draft. It just feels like that's a funky spot. So let's just take a second and look at what the FanDuel over-under wins are. Nets are at 19.5, Wizards are at 20.5, and the Blazers are at 21.5, and the Pistons are at 25.5. So if I remember how the NBA lottery odds work, it's the top 4 teams get that limited spot of the not great odds, right? Of whatever it is, 14.5, I think it is. Is that right? 14%. Oh, the top 2 teams, I'm looking at the top 2 teams get 14.5. 14, let's see, this is according to NBA.com. The final odds determined after regular season that breaks between teams' identical records. So this year, because of identical records, it was 14 for the top teams, 13.3 and 13.2 for the top 4. So 13% chance to get the number 1 pick. Not great. I don't know that had the Jazz not re-signed Lauri Markkanen, that we could have gotten to 19.5, 20.5, or 21.5, honestly. Like, I don't know that we could get to 20 wins. That's really not very many. So I think that's the top 3 teams have a 14.0 chance for the number 1 pick. The number 4 team has 12.5 and the number 5 team has 10.5. That's and number 6 is 9. So according to Vegas, we're going to be number 6. Now, the Bulls are at 28.5 and the Hornets and Raptors are sitting at 30.5. So all of this could fluctuate quite a bit. Right? Brandon Miller, Lonzo Ball is healthy. Charlotte could make a little run. Raptors, I'm not sure what they've got going on. They're kind of funky. But they've got some decent players, RJ Barrett and things like that. So we'll see. And then we'll see, if any of the Pistons players develop. We could probably sneak down to 4 here. The Nets, Wizards, and Blazers, I don't think we were getting there even without Lowry. I mean, they're not kidding around. So I think in all chances are the Nets, the Wizards, and the Blazers will likely be, according to FanDuel, will be the teams with the 14%. And then what do you do from there? Remember, as crazy as it is, I'm doing a little bit of this rounding. Number 1 and number 2 and number 3 have a 50% chance of picking outside of the top 4. That's the flattening of the lottery odds, is that even those top 3 teams, the Nets, Wizards, and Blazers, are teams that have a 50% chance of picking, they can't all, obviously, picking 5th or worse. Number 1 team can only pick 5th. So what is the current roster? What is the max wins the Jazz could have if they prioritized wins over player development? It's an interesting question. We'll touch on it when we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also in Logan and in Linden. The Hyundai, the new Santa Fe, is rocking. I'm driving the Palisade right now. I'll tell you what, the Palisade and the Elantra, which is the sedan, are the two car, or the Sonata, excuse me. The Sonata and the Palisade are the two cars where I've driven their Hyundais where I'm literally like, why would anybody spend more money than these cars do everything. The Sonata hybrid's really special. The Palisade I'm driving is fabulous. And the new Santa Fe is kind of kicking up, taking kind of the world by storm. Plus you add the Ioniq, which is the electric 5, which was the 2003 Motor Trend SUV of the year, which we own. The Santa Fe, you can get $3,000 off the 2024 models right now, which is pretty exciting. And that Elantra I talked about, you can get 0% for 5 years. So it's the 99th anniversary and the hottest summer deals for 99 days going on at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. If you're going to stop by, please drop me a little note, give me an email. We'll give you the VIP treatment that you deserve at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We were just talking about the FanDuel odds a moment ago, and you've heard us talk about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, and we have something a little different for you now. Between now and September 22nd, all FanDuel customers who bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. So between now and September 22nd, not just new, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket for YouTube and YouTube TV. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sports book and get your NFL Sunday Ticket at YouTube and YouTube TV. David Locke back with you. Thank you so much to Leaf Tulane, who did just amazing work filling in for the show for an extended period of time. Really appreciate it. His development's cool. He's a great kid. I'm super proud of him. It's really awesome. Thank you for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, I got 2 things for you. Okay, there's Locked On Sports today. But we also just launched our college football previews. So if you look under the Big 12 show or Locked On College Football, there's a Big 12 preview for you, which Utah or BYU fans, I'm sure you're interested in catching. It was really quite well done, led by Drake, who's incredible on the Big 12. If, with the Jazz current roster, if they maximized wins, could they prioritize winning over player development? So that would be your maximizing wins. So you're starting Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, probably, maybe Keontae. You're starting Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Walker Kessler. Like, I don't quite know what we would be doing that's that different. I don't know who on our roster. Really what you're saying is you're playing Jordan Clarkson and John Collins a lot. Like, isn't that really all you're saying with this question? So I don't think a lot more. And frankly, we got to see on Jordan. Like, let's just be totally honest about Jordan. Jordan's been really, really good for us until last year. And I don't know if it was just environment or the Olympics or what, but like Jordan's effective field goal percentage went from 52%, which is kind of where he was for like his last 3-year average was right there, to 46.9. He literally became one of the least efficient offensive players in all of the NBA last year. And he played 31 minutes a night. So, like, he didn't help us win games last year. So I need to know what, like, I don't think Jordan fell off the map at 31. I just think he had a bad year. I just think he just kind of got off kilter. So that would be the question. And then John Collins really had a pretty good year. So yeah, he can help you win. But I don't think it's more than 34. Like, the league's good. Like, If we played all of our current guys, we don't become better than San Antonio, do we? That's the next team in line, I think. Now that we know Lowry's contract costs and timeline, how do you feel about Key, Walker, etc.'s next contracts fit in terms of future cap space and projections? How do I say this, like, in all honesty? I don't know enough about any of those players yet. Like, I'm not trying to be like an extremist or a talk show host I'm just being really honest. Like, I really like them. I think that there's a great possibility. But if I was in a room and I had to project Keontae George right now, I don't know. Not very exciting, hot takey there on my end. If I had to project Walker Kessler, I think he's a rotation NBA center. But I don't know if that means 15 minutes a night or 32 minutes a night. Like, Keontae's an NBA rotation player. Yeah, same thing. Taylor Hendricks is an NBA rotation player. I don't know 15 or 30. I don't know on any of these guys. I don't know yet that Bryce Sensabaugh is an NBA rotation player. I'm assuming Cody Williams is going to be an NBA rotation player. I don't know 15 or 30. It's too early. I don't know if Isaiah Collier's an NBA rotation player, and I don't know if Kyle Filipowski is. Right? So they're on different tiers. But it's not clear to me who, of the 7 guys that we have on our roster that are all in their third or less years, I'm being perfectly honest with you. As much as I think I know the NBA really well and pretty well schooled and talk to a lot of people, I'm not certain on what role they play in the NBA. So there's certainly no way I can figure out what their contracts are. What I think's interesting is that we decided that Ochai Agbaji was not that, right? We made a decision last year at the trade deadline that Ochai Agbaji was not that. I actually love the early decision on these things. See if we're right. It's riskier. It's easier to be certain. Next year, if you look at the 2025, 26 cap, John Collins has a player option. Colin and Jordan are under contract. We don't have a huge changes. I'm sure that most of these guys aren't guaranteed, they have guarantee dates, but it's not until 26, 27 that we suddenly have, it's wide open, right? In 26, 27, we don't have anybody on the board other than Lowry and our rookies. How do you keep Lowry satisfied staying in Utah to win less than 30 games? Another question, how many years till we make the playoffs? Well, I think the first way you keep Lowry satisfied is 46 million, 46 million, 49 million, right? I don't mean to be flippant about it, and 53 million. I'd be pretty satisfied. Right? We are paying Lowry 42 million this year, 46 the next year, 46 the year after that, 49 the year after that, and 53 the year after that. I'll be satisfied. He's also a great dude. I think they've communicated with him beautifully. He understands what's going on. He understands what he's a part of. He gets to be the man. Guys like to be the man. I'm not sure he's the man in a lot of other places. And so I think I don't think keep satisfying Lowry. I don't think it's this year. How many years do we make the playoffs? We got to get some pieces, right? Those guys I just told you I don't know about. A few of them have to click, and we got to add some pieces. 26, 27, we're going to have a huge amount of financial flexibility. Hopefully 2 or 3 of those guys have clicked in. You know what you have, and then you start building the pieces around it. I think it's still a few years out. And we really, for those of you who are pro-tank, we haven't done it yet. So if you're pro-tank, it's a 2 or 3 year tank. If you want tanking to work, tank is a 2 or 3 year process, and then you're 2 or 3 years out from still 2 years, 3 years out from the playoffs. So then we'd be 5 years out still if you're pro-tank. That seems really long. But it still feels like we've got it's a long process. It's hard, right? We're 48 months now since we traded, 24 months since we traded all of our best players. It's only been 24 months, right? It was only 2 summers ago that we traded Donovan, Bojan, Rudy, then shortly thereafter traded Royce and then shortly thereafter traded Mike. It's only been 24 months. Welcome back, David. Thank you. Do you view Colin Sexton as a long-term piece given his awesome 23-24 season, or is the hurdle of being an undersized 2-guard too much to overcome for our dream roster? Well, for our dream roster, maybe. And then his next question was, I don't see Colin being happy as a sixth man. Well, that would probably be the rub because I think Collin probably is a sixth man. Collin was really great last year. Like his effective field goal, he's been really great for 2 years. He's really efficient. He's 25 years old. His effective field goal percentage is 55%. He's going to the line 4 or 5 times a game. He's making 85% of his free throws. He upped his threes to 4 a game. He made 39% again. He's now a career 38% three-point shooter. He's really good offensively. He's an elite level offensive player. And Danny's history is he likes these type of players. So I do think Collin's a piece. And in what capacity? I think ideally Collin's a sixth man on a really, really good team. That would be great. What is he on our team next year? Not entirely sure. Jordan's really a great teammate and has not been one who's got a problem with whatever his role is and what he has to do. So I don't expect you're going to see Jordan flipping on what his role is. So but I also think there is probably a desire to start moving Collin toward being a sixth man. We could have a pretty, like if we want to win some games next year, I actually think we win games with our bench. You suddenly have a bench that's Colin Sexton, John Collins, like maybe Jordan Clarkson with some other kind of young, suddenly to me, there's a real chance you do some darn special stuff there by winning those minutes of basketball games. Should Jazz fans riot if John Collins starts ahead of the young guys and plays big minutes just because of his contract? That's the question that we address next as we continue on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you in part by BetterHelp, convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. When we talk about therapy, I think if you put it in the parlance of performance enhancement, it makes a lot of sense, right? So I do yoga every morning to try to improve my strength and ability to move. I go to the gym every mid-morning to try to be stronger and improve the way that I age. I ride my bike an awful lot because I want to improve my endurance so that I age better and all. Right. Well, therapy is trying to performance enhancing my understanding of who I am and what I'm going through and why I fall into certain traps or things of that nature. That's why you go to it's therapy. And BetterHelp is entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, you fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched to a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time with no additional charge. So you go to BetterHelp. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Convenient, flexible, online therapy. Visit BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. If you want Jazz, we're talking Jazz every day. You flip it on, you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting Jazz every day. So make Locked On Jazz a part of your every single day appearance and become an everydayer with us on Locked On Jazz. Thank you very much. I think, by the way, I'm going to do my best this year to bring Empty the Noggin back in an exciting way. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Some of the stuff I've been working on, working on a lot. Did you see that we launched Locked On Dodgers in Japanese and Spanish via AI? I've been working on a lot of crazy stuff this summer. But yeah, isn't that crazy? Like literally it translates Locked On Dodgers into Japanese and Spanish and even gives our voice person an accent. Should the Jazz fans riot if John Collins starts ahead of the young guys and plays big minutes just because of his contract? Well, if it's just because of his contract, yes. We've had enough of that. I think Jazz fans should riot if we're 30th in the league defensively again. How's that? I don't know if that's John Collins' fault or what, but really, if there's a single thing this year that I would like to see change, it would be that the Utah Jazz are not last in the NBA in defense. And the second thing I would like to see is that the Jazz are not. Now, this might not be fair to Will Hardy because, frankly, sometimes it has to do with personnel. But I don't know that I thought we should have been that we have the personnel of the worst defensive team in the league, but we did. The second one I would say is I would like to see us not be the worst team in the league in transition defense by a super large margin. Like I think it was by maybe 2 or 3 points more than anyone else. So I don't think you should riot. That would be my first thought. I think that seems a little strong. But if Walker Kessler can hold his own and be a viable offensive player in their 5-out system, handing the ball off, giving things and doing things as they tried to do in summer league with him, his defensive presence is so much better than John Collins that I think he should probably play in order to not be the last defense team in defense in there is. So that would be my thought. But Riot seems strong. What do you think the starting line will be opening night? I think this is such a great question. I don't know. So I think the opening night starting lineup is Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Taylor Hendricks, Walker Kessler. John Collins and Jordan Clarkson come off the bench, and our bench is pretty good. That's my guess. That our starting lineup opening night is Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Taylor Hendricks, Walker Kessler. And we try to get better defensively. We have one small guard in there, 3 big guys in the back. The only thing that would change there would be if Cody Williams has an unbelievable camp and can handle well enough to play the 2. And then you literally are bringing Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, and John Collins off your bench with this veteran team that kicks people's butt. What do I think our starting lineup is in by January? So I don't know that I think it would change a lot by January. The only question really to me would be that Cody Williams flourishes or Taylor Hendricks flops. But if Taylor Hendricks flops, I don't know who else plays that position. In March, well, I don't have Jordan Clarkson and John Collins starting, and those would be the 2 most likely to be traded in February. So I don't see it being that different then. Again, Cody Williams doing something to become a starter would be the question. I do think that the Jazz would probably love to have Colin Sexton play 6th man because that's probably his long-term role with the franchise if he's going to be here for another 5 or 6 years, and they probably would like him to be here for another 5 or 6 years. So there's a chance that Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton flip. And then again, I did say if Cody Williams somehow, but if you're playing Keontae George, Cody Williams, Lauri Markkanen, Taylor Hendricks, and Walker Kessler, you do not have many ball handlers on the floor. And you have 0 passers other than Keontae on the floor. So you really have got to have passers. Like that's what was most noticeable when Fontecchio and Olynyk left last year. We just lost all our passers. And so maybe Jordan starts because maybe it's Keontae and Jordan because Jordan passes, as funny as that is to say. But maybe it's Keontae and Jordan with Lowry, Taylor, and Walker trying to be defensive, or it's John. John could, if Walker has as bad a camp as, he has a bad camp, then it changes. But yeah, I mean, the one nice thing for Will, you got a lot of competition. Like guys are going to come into camp going, right? Cody Williams is coming to camp trying to earn a spot. Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton are going to battle. Taylor Hendricks got to prove himself. Again, Lowry could slide to the 4 and Cody Williams could start at the 3. So you've got a lot of competition in camp. I love the tongue-in-cheek. I missed you, which you probably didn't. In 20 games is enough for the team before they start sitting their veterans. Really, like when we're talking about sitting veterans, it's like so funny. We're just like it's John Collins and Jordan Clarkson are the only ones you're talking about. Right? We're not sitting Colin. He's 25. We're not sitting Lowry. He's like our franchise piece. So really, we're just talking about John Collins and Jordan Clarkson, which like they're both total pros and super great teammates and fabulous to have around. And so it seems kind of funny to me that they're getting that, like, and then frankly, if I'm being perfectly straightforward, Jordan last year played in a manner that was not one that helped us win games. So he really struggled. I think he'll be fine. Great point by Ben Anderson on the show yesterday. The opening 20 games of the season, almost every game the Jazz play, except for the Chicago Bulls game, is against a team projected to be in the playoffs. Right? So if you look at the FanDuel Western Conference odds next year, like we open up with Memphis, who's projected to finish 5th in the West. Then we play the Warriors, who are a playoff team. Then we play Dallas, who's projected 4th. Then we play Sacramento, who's projected 6th. Then we play the Spurs, who are Victor Wembanyama. Then we go to Denver, who's projected 3rd. Then we play the Bulls. Then we play the Bucks. Then we play the Spurs again. Then we play the Suns, who I forgot to put in this little chart here. Then we play Dallas, Sacramento, Clippers, Lakers, Spurs, Knicks, Spurs, Nuggets, Mavericks, Lakers, Thunder. Like by December 3rd, we're pretty crushed. It could get ugly fast. What is the most untalked about story of the offseason? Honestly, let me go back. My most untalked about story of the offseason is, what are the Lakers, Warriors, and Clippers doing? The Lakers, Warriors, and Clippers are all sitting at 500 team. What are they doing? It's beyond me. I have no idea what they're doing. What Jazz player are you most excited about this year? And for the NBA, what player and team are you most excited? Player I'm most excited to watch Victor in year 2. I think he could be really dominant. And is Ant ready to ascend to carry this league? Because the league thinks he is. What Jazz player am I most excited? I think Keontae's super interesting. And let him just get a year under his belt and calm down and see what he does playing with good players to start the year. And he could be really good. And I hope that's the case. Team? That's interesting. I think Milwaukee. Can Doc Rivers actually do something? Can Dame be better in year 2, or is that just going to turn out to be a tremendous flop? And Phoenix under Mike Budenholzer. They might be pretty good. All right. I have a bunch of great questions that actually were so good, I wanted to throw them out there. So this is the question of what the Jazz players to 5 years ago. We'll do that on the show coming up because I thought this was great. I'll just use it the whole style for show. NBA minutes. This is locked on 240. We'll do that coming up here. We'll look at NBA rosters and who has 240 minutes coming up here and look at that to start projecting the league. We'll do points gained projections as the weeks are going on as we get ready here. I've kind of outlined the shows. So that's what's coming up here. What would you think if the NBA flattened the draft lottery completely? Well, this we'll talk about because the Women's Soccer League just did this. They just put a new collective bargaining agreement and don't have a draft, and nor do European teams. So we get rid of the draft as well. Final thing, no question, but I hope you had a good vacation, Locked. Leaf was phenomenal. It's good to have you back. Well, Leaf was phenomenal. Huge thanks to Leaf Tulane for filling in, doing a great job. We super appreciate it. And that is Locked On Jazz, back with you. I now send you the first ever, by the way, we now have 24/7 channels that we launched. I think I did this while we were gone too. We did this. We've launched a 24/7 NFL channel and a 24/7 college sports channel. They're both available on YouTube. Go to Locked On NFL on YouTube or Locked On College Football on YouTube to get it. They're also available on Amazon Fire TV. In the meantime, I send you over on YouTube to the first ever 24/7 sports channel, Locked On Sports Today. And on audio, check out the Big Six in 60. Have a great day.